What's up, my friends, and welcome into the PHLY Phillies Podcast. We broadcast live from the Xfinity Lounge here at the PHLY Studios, and as always, we're brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365 and TrueMark Financial Credit Union. Head on over to any of their 24 branches to get started today, or TrueMark.com/PHLY 24/7 online. A happy Wednesday to each and every one of you, and a welcome back to the PHLY Phillies Podcast. Tyler Zulli here, Ethan Hartley, and of course you in the chat hanging out with us today. Thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate it. We have a lot to get into today, and we have, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending if you like this kind of stuff, if you like the hot stove conversation, we have kind of gotten into that speculation territory. We've gotten into hypotheticals. We've gotten into trade rumors and reports and hearsay and he said, she said type of stuff. And that's kind of where we're at right now. And sometimes it brings up good conversation, and sometimes it brings up fodder and speculation to keep baseball interest moving. And it's not just in baseball. It happens in every sport. But I think with baseball, compared to some other free agencies, like when you think about NBA free agency, right? They have the legal tampering period, which is a stupid phrase, by the way, but they have legal tampering, and conversations get had before free agency begins. And that's why you see free agents get signed like 30 seconds into free agency, because the deal was already signed. They just weren't legally allowed to put pen to paper until that time frame. With baseball, it's a little bit slower of a process, and you do get some news, but a lot of times free agency can drag into the winter meetings and past the new year. And sometimes, like, when you saw Bryce Harper and Manny Machado a couple years ago, 7 years ago now? Feels like it wasn't that long ago. But when those two guys signed, what was it? Late February, I think, when they signed? Early March? Something along that. It was late into spring training and into the offseason. So sometimes you have to have these conversations that are a little bit more speculatory. They're a little bit more fodder. But we will have one of them today regarding Nolan Arenado. But here's what's coming up on the PHLY Phillies Podcast. It is the Nolan Arenado conversation to kick things off. Do you have any interest in Nolan Arenado? I know we were, what was it, 7 months ago, 10 months ago, whatever it was, in early March when we really restarted the format here of the PHLY Phillies Podcast. We talked about third base, and Nolan Arenado's name had come up quite a bit. And we'll talk about the interest level, what it was then, what it is now, and I want to get your thoughts on it as well. Also coming up later in the show, the beat writer for The Athletic that covers the Minnesota Twins said that there is a possibility that Byron Buxton would be interested in waiving his no-trade clause if two things, right? The right situation unfolds and the Twins continue their rebuild path that we expect. And then we will wrap up today's show with another edition of Remember Me, and maybe we'll help out Ethan Hartley a little bit this time, and we'll go a little bit newer. But let's do it. Welcome into the PHLY Phillies Podcast once again. Tyler Zulli here, Ethan Hartley producing today's show. Let's start with the Nolan Arenado conversation. I got to be honest with you. I'm going to start right off the rip by saying this. I have zero interest in Nolan Arenado. I had very little interest last February and March. I had very little interest because of a couple of different factors. One, the 3 years left on the deal and the fairly sizable money in terms of how much he was making. Now, last year it was a higher number. This year coming up in the following year, he's got 2 years left on his deal. That number decreases, so it's not terrible. I think the Phillies, if they were, or any team were to make a trade for Nolan Arenado, they'd be on the hook for I think it's $16 and $15 million, and then the Rockies are paying some. I would assume the Cardinals would take some of the contract as well. There's some deferred money that we're going to get into, which, by the way, he has deferred money in his contract, Ethan, until 2041. It's like $2 and $3 million. It's not a ton, but it is there. But I got to be honest with you, I really don't have a whole lot of interest in Nolan Arenado at this point because of the offensive regression that we've seen over the last couple of years. I just can't expect Arenado to get better heading into his age 35 and 36 season. The thing that we know about Nolan Arenado is the defense is still really good. Is it platinum glove winning, elite level, like one of the best defensive third basemen of all time good at this point? Probably not. but it's still pretty good. Like, he was a 1 and a .9 defensive WAR over the last 2 seasons, which is really low for a guy like Arenado, but it's still well above average for most players across baseball. And last year, he was in the 81st percentile of outs above average. The year before, he was in the 95th percentile with a 10 OAA in 2024. Even if he's not elite level, platinum glove winning, 10 straight years I think he won a gold glove between Colorado and St. Louis. Even if he's not that guy anymore, he's still a really, really good defender. He's better than most defensive third basemen in baseball. Now, like, is he better than a Brian Hayes at this point? Probably not. Is he better than Ryan McMahon? Maybe, maybe not. But he's still really, really good when it comes to his defense at third base. But the problem is, the offense has gone in the wrong direction. It wasn't great last year, and really the metrics themselves have gone in the wrong direction each of the last 2 seasons. His power has been sapped. Now, he didn't play as many games last year. He didn't have as many at-bats as he did last year, 2 years ago. Just 400, a little bit more than 400 at-bats last year. But the power has been sapped. He's gone down from 26 home runs in 23 to 16 home runs in 24, to 12 home runs in 25. The OBP in 24 was 325. It's down to 289 last year. The slug was down almost 80 points last year compared to what it was in 2023. And his OPS was down to 666 over 400 at-bats, a little over 400 at-bats last season. Now, that number itself doesn't sound great on the surface, but let's dive a little bit deeper into that OPS to show you just how bad it was in 2025. Now, he technically didn't have the qualified, the prerequisite number of at-bats. The lowest qualified hitter in terms of lowest amount of at-bats was Jake Cronenworth, who had 419. Nolan Arenado had just above 400. So it's not like he was 50 or 80 or 100 at-bats off. He was a handful of at-bats off. He was a couple of games played away from being a qualified hitter last season. Ethan, do you want to take a guess at what his 666 OPS would have ranked amongst qualified hitters if he was a qualified hitter himself last season? And by the way, I'll give you context. Yeah. There were 145 qualified hitters last year.
138.
Almost spot on.
Oh.
136th of 145. 136th is what his qualified OPS would have been. Gavin Lux had a better OPS. Bryson Stott had a better OPS. Almost every qualified hitter in baseball had a better OPS than Nolan Arenado last year. In short, it was a bad offensive season for Nolan Arenado. He featured career lows in average, OBP, slugging, and OPS, and his 87 OPS plus was the second worst of a full season, not counting 2020, in his career. It's the worst since his rookie season. So I wanted to give you 2 comparison graphics here, and it's not necessarily, what I'm about to tell you is not necessarily me like beating the drum for Alec Bohm. Last year I did, probably more so than I should have, but it was a combination of like Bohm coming off a pretty good year in 2024, Bohm having 2 years of arbitration left, and the contract being extremely team-friendly because of the arbitration. Now we look 1 year later. It was an injury-riddled season for Bohm, not nearly as good of a year in terms of productivity, at least from the RBI total perspective, and he only has 1 year left of arbitration, and he's probably going to make more despite having a lesser season than he did in 2024. But just to give you an idea of where Arenado was, first let's take a look at their numbers compared to each other to show you the season that Arenado had. Alec Bohm hit 287 last year, 50 points higher than Nolan Arenado's numbers. Now, I know that Bohm has that's kind of his calling card because of the fact there's not a lot of power, is that he has a good average, he has decent doubles numbers, and those numbers were down because of injury this season as well. But his slug, which takes into account, obviously, singles, doubles, triples, home runs, and multiplies it by that 4, or divides it by that full 4 number, right? The 4.00. His slug is almost 30 or is over 30 points higher than Nolan Arenado's a season ago. They had almost identical home run numbers. Bohm had 11, Arenado had 12, almost identical RBI numbers. Bohm had 59, Arenado had 52. Now you could argue that Bohm was in a better position to drive runs in than Arenado was because the Phillies offense was better than the Cardinals offense. But then you look at the OPS plus, and again, OPS plus averages 100. Alec Bohm was 102 this past season, which was basically as baseline average as you could possibly get. Nolan Arenado was 87, 13 percentage points worse than the average hitter in all of Major League Baseball. The second graphic that I wanted to show you was just their Baseball Savant pages from a season ago. You want to take a guess at which one's Arenado and which one is Bohm? I didn't tell you who's who for a reason, because I think that they're pretty obvious as to who is who. Both of the guys do a good job of not whiffing. They don't swing and miss a lot. Both guys do a good job of not striking out. One of them's in the 96th percentile. The other one finished in the 80th percentile. Ethan, if I had to ask you which one's Bohm and which one's Arenado, you want to take a guess at who's who?
I guess Bohm is on the right because he's the right choice.
It's 100% correct. Alec Bohm is on the right. Nolan Arenado's on the left. Now, there's some other factors that could give it away, right? The fact that the fielding run value on the left is substantially better than the one on the right probably tells you Arenado, one of the great third basemen defensively of all time, is on the left. I will say this. I am not sitting here like barking for Alec Bohm. I also understand that Alec Bohm is not a four-hole hitter. Alec Bohm, I think, in a perfectly constructed lineup, probably hits, I don't know, what do you think, Ethan? Hits sixth? If Alec Bohm is your sixth hitter with legit power at 3, 4, 5, that's a really good place for Alec Bohm to be. He's not a cleanup hitter. Doesn't have home run potential. The doubles numbers have been there in the past. His gaps numbers are there. I think Bohm has the potential to be a really serviceable piece in a lineup. And I think he has the potential to even maybe be a really serviceable piece in this lineup next season if you get some power from the right-hand side and alleviate him having to be the four-hole hitter. Like if he hits fifth or sixth even, it's a better spot. I think if in a perfect world, if he's your sixth, you're in a good spot because he has the doubles capability. He doesn't swing and miss a lot. He doesn't strike out a lot. He's a guy who does he barrel the ball frequently? He does not. But does he put the bat on the ball frequently? Yes, he does. So that's the type of guy to me that if you could have him hit sixth in a lineup that has a lefty and a righty power hitter and a couple of good guys, a couple of good hitters at the top of your lineup, like this team has had in the past, that's a perfect spot. Now, again, this is not me trying to sit here and bark for Alec Bohm being a long-term solution. This is more about me saying, God, I have no interest in Nolan Arenado at this point. He's going to be 35 years old. Nolan Arenado is one of the great, not just third basemen, but one of the great players of this generation. He's top 10 in active home runs. He's top 15, I believe, in active RBI or somewhere in that range. He is one of the elite defenders, not just of this generation, but of all time. I think that this is a guy who, at the end of his career, we are going to look back and go, man, this dude, what a career. Elite defender, really, really, really plus good bat for a long time. Not at this point. If you would have offered me Nolan Arenado in 2021, I'd have given you the moon and the stars for him. Even the year that the Phillies played the Cardinals in the postseason, and the conversation was, do they go try to trade for Arenado at the deadline because it was still kind of an unknown as what Bohm was. He had just finished runner-up in Rookie of the Year the season, 2 seasons prior, and was it 2020, I believe, or whatever year, 2019 or whatever year it was. Bohm still had some growth about him. And I was like, listen, yeah, you go get, if you can get Nolan Arenado, you go get Nolan Arenado. At this point, I don't have a whole lot of interest. Now, we've heard from Ethan already, but I want to officially welcome into the program. Ethan Hartley, your thoughts on, again, speculation. There's no tag to Arenado, but every time Nolan Arenado's name comes up, the Phillies seem to be in the conversation. What's your interest level in a Nolan Arenado trade at this point?
0. Yeah, pretty much.
It's low.
Yeah, I think really the only The one small perspective that might make a little more sense is that if you ever sniff the postseason, which is probably likely, but I mean, things can happen, that he might step up to the plate better than Alec Bohm. And that might be it. And that is still very hypothetical and very 50-50.
Which is a fine, I think, thought in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I will say Alec Bohm has 5 times the career postseason at bats that Nolan Arenado does. Tends to happen when you play in Colorado for a good bulk of your career, and the Cardinals haven't been good in the last 3 seasons. Nolan Arenado's career batting average in the postseason is 152. His slug is 242. He has 5 hits in 33 postseason at bats. He has 3 RBI and 1 home run. Hasn't set the world on fire in a admittedly smaller sample size. But if you would have said, wow, Nolan Arenado has 90 career postseason at bats, and he's a 340 postseason hitter, and he's got 7 career postseason home runs, and like the numbers postseason wise are there, sure, you could have that argument. Again, a much smaller sample size, 33 compared to, I believe Alec Bohm now has well over 100.
Probably.
At this point, I think he's at like 120. So it's probably like 4 times more, maybe not 5. He's got 129 career postseason at bats. He's only a 225 postseason hitter as well. He's got a 333 slug. He only has 2 home runs. He's driven in 14. Again, much larger sample size, but like neither of those guys have had incredibly successful postseason tenures.
Yeah.
At least for Bohm, the 7 hits in the NLCS series, which most of them came in the front end of the series, like it did for pretty much every Philly against the Diamondbacks. He does have 7 hits in the NLCS. He had 6 in the World Series in 28 at bats. So, in those, that's kind of the big chunk. That's 46 of his 129 career at bats. He's got 13 hits and 46 career at bats in those 2 series. Again, not going to sit here and tell you I'm like the biggest Alec Bohm fan in the world. And I think heading into his final year of arbitration, this is very likely the final year of Alec Bohm as a Philly. But I just really have no interest in Nolan Arenado. None whatsoever. All right, let's pause. On the other side, I want to have a conversation about Byron Buxton because he's another name that has come up quite a bit in trade conversations. And the thing that I've always said about Byron Buxton is he has a no-trade clause, and he has no interest in waiving it, or so it seemed. Now maybe that's starting to change as a report has come out from The Athletic that maybe he'd be interested in waiving it if the Twins want to continue to be in rebuild mode. We'll talk about that. We'll play Remember Me at the end of the game. We'll talk about the awards at the end of the show. We'll talk about the award winners as well. We'll do it all on the PHLY Phillies podcast. We broadcast live from the Xfinity Lounge here at the PHLY studios, and we'll be right back after this. All right, if you're thinking about hitting the road to watch your favorite pro football team, your favorite pro basketball team, pro hockey, whatever it might be, then you have to get tickets with our friends over at Game Time, because Game Time gives the advantage back to you, the ticket buyer. They make it incredibly simple to not only find the best seats, but to know exactly what you're going to pay with just one toggle because of the fact that you're going to have every number up front. There's no hidden fees. There's no last-second money added to the account. You know exactly what you're going to pay before you put all of your credit card information in. And with the 3D seat map, you're going to know exactly where you're sitting. So you can see, do I have an obstructed view? Am I in a bad spot? What if I'm outside? Am I protected from the elements as we get into the winter months? If it snows, if it's windy, if it rains, am I under the awning or the overhang? Do I have a seat that will keep me warm or warmer if you're outside later in the winter months? You can do it all with the Game Time app, and with incredible protection like job loss protection, event cancellation protection. They want to make sure you have not just the best ticket buying experience, but the best ticket attending experience as well. And that's why they want to give the advantage back to you, the fan. So head on over to Game Time, download the app today, create an account, and use the code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code PHLY for $20 off. Tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. And while we're here, let me tell you about our friends over at Xfinity, because if you're thinking about watching any game this week, whether it is pro hockey, pro basketball, college hoops are back on the horizon now, and of course a full slate of football this weekend with your hometown team getting ready for another primetime game, you have to get Xfinity. It is the ultimate sports destination, and if you call yourself a sports fan, you know you have to have Xfinity. It's the perfect fan flex where you get all of the action right there in your living room. Plus, with Xfinity's best picture and sound enhanced with 4K, it's so clear that it feels like you are at the ballpark. And sometimes you can have 4 games going at once, because why not? You can. You have that option to do it. So next game day, make sure that big fan in your life isn't a big fail. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Xfinity, imagine that. Welcome back to the PHLY Phillies Podcast. Want to say hello to everybody in the chat. I see Ray Schumacher, Frank Barber, Elephant in the Room, Futz. Who else we got? Rich. Frank O'Doyle, RF. If I haven't said your name and you're here, hello. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. We love you. Thank you so much for being a part of today's show. Again, Tyler Zulli and Ethan Hartley here. Let's get into this Byron Buxton conversation, because, again, it's one of those things where every time the trade deadline rolls around, Phillies fans say, man, I'd love to have Byron Buxton. And I think a lot of people would like to have Byron Buxton, the talent. Byron Buxton is a supreme talent. The problem lies twofold. The first, he has a no-trade clause. The second, he has a pretty sizable injury history that I think is hard to overlook. And again, I am not somebody who believes in injury-prone, because I think when you have injuries that may not have correlation to each other, like if I break my finger and I miss 50 games, and then next year I sprain my ankle and I miss 40 games, those two things aren't related, right? They're two freak injuries. Now, you can have injuries where, like Joel Embiid, for example, right? His knees are deteriorating. So every time you have a knee swell or a knee issue, they all play together at some point, right? But like the broken orbital bone compared to the knee, I don't find correlation behind those two.
Not to mention 3 times.
Right. Like there's a difference between, like, if I have chronic knee pain or knee issues, or I break my finger and then sprain my ankle, the chronic knee issues would give me the larger sense of injury prone versus like a guy like Buxton who just happens to get injured a lot. I think it's hard to say he's not injury prone, but like I think there are separations between the two. So with that being said, Dan Hayes, who covers the Twins for The Athletic, said that Buxton may be open to waiving his no-trade clause for certain contenders if the Twins start or continue to sell off their big pieces. Now, obviously, they've done a lot of that over the last trade deadline, and if they continue to do it, that's, I think, where Buxton would get consideration. And this is where we get into our big deal segment of the day. And our big deal segment is brought to you by our friends over at Cherry Hill Jeep. If you're looking for a Jeep or Ram truck, there's only one dealership in South Jersey who has been the market leader since 1967. Head on over to cherryhilljeep.com to get the best selection and the best prices. Here's the thing with Byron Buxton. As I said before, when he's healthy, he is an elite level player. There's no question about it. An elite defender, 100th percentile in sprint speed last season. The offensive productivity last year was excellent. And in fact, I think not only did he put together a healthy season, but also put together basically a career year because of the healthy season. His 126 games played are the second most in his career. His 488 at-bats are the most. Here's where he had the most in every statistical category that I'm about to name. Hits, 129. Home runs, 35. RBI, 83, and the 24 stolen bases are the second most of his career. So, Ethan, the big deal about this is twofold. One, can he replicate 2025? And two, can he stay healthy for another full season? And I think the problem with answering these questions is question one only really gets answered by question two, but question one seems more answerable than question two. Can he stay healthy for another season? I got no freaking clue. Byron Buxton is a guy who over the last 8 years, basically, has played over 100 games 3 times. Last year, the year before, which was 102, and 2017, he played 140. In between those seasons, he played 28 in 2018, 87 in 2019, played 39 of 60 in 2020, 61 in 22, 92 in 23, and 85 in 22, and then 85 in 23. Betting on him staying healthy is probably not a good bet. However, if he stays healthy, betting on him having a good season is probably a good bet. The problem is, I don't want to make the second bet without having assurance of the first bet. That's where the hard part about this conversation comes in.
100% agree. And it's, again, we talk about correlation in terms of injuries. I mean, you'd have to go back and look at what he had dealt with every single year he had missed time and either find correlation or not. I feel like there might be a little bit. I feel like, and this is just totally stringing out of my memory, but I feel like his knees have been a little bit of a problem. So in that regard, maybe, especially as a center fielder, when we were talking beforehand about, a lot of the advanced analytics on, what he's good at in terms of playing center field and what he's not good at. So that might play a little bit of a role. I'd say maybe like 20%. But again, some stuff, especially in baseball, where, freak accidents can happen all the time. Just simply how a pitcher can throw. You can break fingers all the time, and that's totally out of your control.
I forgot about the knee. The knee is problematic because it is a recurring issue. So he had the issue after the weird slide back in 22, and then he also has already had knee issues in the past, and then he had tendonitis in his left knee on a rehab assignment in 23. This guy, that's the recurring, that's the injury-prone thing we talk about. He also has had left shoulder injury, fractured left hand from being hit on a pitch, concussions, migraines, and various soft tissue injuries like rib cage inflammation and hamstring issues. All of those things unrelated to each other, but it's hard for me to say, yeah, man, I think he'll play 130 games again next year.
100%.
Because he's played just shy of 900 games in his career, 898. 228 of them have come in the last 2 seasons. 368 of them have come in 3 seasons. So you're telling me that 368 of 898, which means that only 530 other games have been played in 8 seasons? 530, and now granted, 2020 puts a wrinkle into things because there was only 60 games. But 530 games over 8 seasons is an average of 66.25 games a year. So while I expect him to produce when he's on the field, I think about 2022, he played 92 games and hit 28 home runs. He was an all-star for a reason. It was an unbelievable season. I think about 2021, off to an incredible start. He only played 61 games, hit 19 home runs, and hit over 300 with a +1 OPS. When the guy's on the field, there's no question about it. He's an elite-level player. When you start to think about how often is he not on the field, you think about him, you think about the Trouts, right? At some point, you're just not on the field, and you can't do anything about it. Teams can't do anything about it. So that's kind of the big question is if he were to waive his no trade clause, how do you keep him healthy? Freak injuries happen, but would you have to have him play some DH to mitigate that? You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about just the Phillies. I'm talking about any team that acquires him. Would you have to have him get off his feet in center field a little bit, have him DH, I don't know, maybe 30 or 40 times a year? Then have him play 80 games in center field or whatever it might be to mitigate that. But I can't guarantee you that he's going to play another 125 games.
And if you trade for him and he needs to DH and you keep Kyle,
then Schwarber's playing left field.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
Yeah.
There's never a bad thing about having too many good players. But at some point, you do have to have some positional fit. And I don't mind Schwarber playing 10 or 12 games in left field. God, if he played 10 or 12 games in center field, there's something awful happened. I don't mind him playing 10 or 12 games in left field, but I don't want him playing 40. And I don't know if that's avoidable and I think that's the case for everybody that acquires a Byron Buxton. So that's our big deal segment of the day. It's brought to you by our friends over at Cherry Hill Jeep. Again, cherryhilljeep.com to get in on all of the incredible offers that Cherry Hill Jeep has to offer. Or you can just stop over any of the bridges, be right there. Their complex is incredible. Let's continue this conversation, though, Ethan. Remember the other day we talked about Ketel Marte and who would be a good fit for Marte, and we talked about the Mets. I hate to say this. There's another NL East team, the second day in a row that we've talked about potential hypothetical trades. I think there's another NL East team that would make sense for a Buxton deal if the Twins wanted to move him and if he wanted to move the no trade clause. Now, again, the no trade clause is step number one. If he says, I don't want to go there, it's a moot point. Like, if the I don't know, the White Sox called and were like, hey, man, we're really interested in Byron Buxton, Buxton would be like, kick rocks. No interest. The team I think he makes a lot of sense on is a team that like vastly underperformed last year. And I think in large part was due to a slew of injuries that they had and a really bad start to the season. I'll be honest with you. I think he makes a ton of sense for the Atlanta Braves. The Braves had a rash of injuries last year. Jurickson Profar got suspended 4 games into the year. Their pitching staff was just riddled with injury. They missed a ton of time. Really over the last 2 seasons, the Braves offense has missed a ton of time. I think Byron Buxton makes a ton of sense for the Braves if he's interested in going there. So here's the first thing. He's from Georgia. Now, he's from Baxley, Georgia, which is 3 hours south of Atlanta. I don't know if that means a whole lot, but he is from Georgia. I don't know if that means something to him. The second thing, the Braves now have several former Minnesota Twins coaches on staff. If he likes those dudes, that might mean something as well. So assuming that the Braves don't have to move Michael Harris in the deal to acquire Byron Buxton, which I would think they probably wouldn't want to, that puts the Braves in an advantageous spot where they could rotate Harris and Buxton in center and left, or you could put one of them in left and have Profar DH, or you could get Ronald Acuna off his feet in right field a little bit more and have him DH. Like, you could mix and match your DH spot with these 4 outfielders that you have. And then I think the ultimate one is with Profar DH. It's a super intriguing outfield if you were to go like Buxton in left, Harris in center, and Acuna in right. Because we know that Buxton and Harris are both elite level defenders, right? Buxton was in the 81st percentile or something like that in range this year. Michael Harris was in the 95th percentile of range this year. He had an 8 outs above average. And then Acuna, who I think, Ethan, if we're being fair, is a less than stellar defender, but has a rocket attached to his arm. And that's why he plays right, is because he's got a cannon in right field. So you would have elite level coverage in left and center. You could shade Harris over to right to kind of offset the bad defense from Acuna. And then you've got the cannon of the right fielder. That's an intriguing defense to me. And I think it's an intriguing team where you could go really any one of different which ways, where your top 4 would look something like Acuna, Buxton, Olsen, Riley, Albies. That starts to feel like a pretty formidable team if they're healthy, man.
Isn't it a dream when those players can play at least average defense versus we talk about, how scary the idea is of putting
Schwarber out there, how bad Castellanos has been the last 2 seasons.
Yeah. Yep.
I think Buxton makes a ton of sense for the Braves. Now, again, it all relies upon Buxton wanting to move the no-trade clause or not. I think that Buxton would make a lot of sense for the Atlanta Braves, assuming they don't have to move Michael Harris in the deal, whose offense is up and down. 20 home runs last year, probably going to get you 20 or 25 stolen bases, swings and misses at a ridiculous pace. Or in terms of chase rate, his walk rate was in the 1st percentile last year. He walked at 2.5% for an everyday player who got 611 at bats. He had 30 walks. 641 plate appearances, 611 at bats. He had 30 walks. And that may not even be true. He might have had, he only actually had 16 walks. He must have had 14 either sack flies or, intentional walks or whatever. He only had 16 walks last year. But I do think that team put together would be a good one. All right, let's pause on the other side. We're going to get to some of the awards. The Rookies of the Year and the Manager of the Year have been announced. And then we'll finish up today's episode with a little bit of Remember Me. And I'll tell you what the category is for Remember Me coming up in just a bit. It's the PHLY Phillies Podcast. We broadcast live from the Xfinity Lounge. We will be right back after this. Excuse me. All right, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Whatever sporting event you want to bet on, they have the opportunity to do it. They are the pioneers of live in-game betting, and you find out why with 780,000 different live-streamed events across 78 different sports. So if you want to get it on pro hockey or pro hoops tonight, you can get it on college hockey and pro hockey as well, and college football. You know what Tuesday night means. There was some wild Tuesday night football last night in that conference. And of course, we're getting into closer and closer to the week's worth of pro and college football. And you can do it all with our friends over at Bet365. And new users right now, use the promo code down at the bottom of your screen, PHLY365. Deposit $10, place a bet for $5, and you'll get $200 back in bonus bets, whether your bet wins or loses. You can use that bonus bet money on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and so much more. You find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 and physically located in PA. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, if you're looking for a Jeep or Ram truck, there is only one dealership in South Jersey who has been the market leader since 1967. That's our friends over at CherryHillJeep.com. They've got you covered with an unbelievable selection, but more importantly, the best prices. You can slide into a 2025 Jeep Wrangler this month for just $289 a month, and every Wrangler delivers strong drivetrains, innovative engineering, and quality components that underpin this icon's legendary heritage. Or you can pull away in the most luxurious and functional SUV, the 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo, which also includes a true zero offer. Stop in today, tell them PHLY sent you, and receive $1,000 off any new car and an additional $2,000 in trade-in value. Listen, I know people buy Jeeps and Rams elsewhere. I just don't know why. Head on over to CherryHillJeep.com to shop 24/7 or just minutes from all bridges to drive home in your new Jeep or Ram today. Welcome back to the PHLY Phillies Podcast. Tyler Zulli, Ethan Hartley, and you guys in the chat. Thanks so much for hanging out with us here on this afternoon, this Wednesday afternoon. Let's get into let's get into the awards that were announced yesterday. So the Manager of the Year awards were announced, and the Rookie of the Year awards were announced. No surprise in the American League. Nick Kurtz wins the American League Rookie of the Year. Jacob Wilson finished second, so the A's become the first team since I believe it was the 2021 Atlanta Braves to have the first and second place winner and runner-up in the Rookie of the Year award. When the season began, I picked Jacob Wilson to win the Rookie of the Year in the American League. It looked good for a while, and then all of a sudden, Nick Kurtz decided he was going to go on the absolute just monster torch stretch that he did. You remember the 6-hit game in Houston where he had 4 home runs. What did he come like 5.5 feet short of breaking the all-time record for getting a 5th home run in a game? I mean, just an unbelievable performance from anybody, let alone a rookie. So really no surprise there, Ethan, that Nick Kurtz not only won, but won unanimously in the American League.
Love me some Big Amish.
Great. I mean, he's
that's an awesome nickname.
That's a great nickname. We were talking about baseball nicknames the other day, and like the old school, like we always make fun of like the Oil Can Boyds and like Patches O'Houlihan from Dodgeball, right? Type names. There's not a lot of good nicknames in baseball right now. Big Amish is a good one. Big Dumper's another one, obviously. Not a lot of great nicknames in baseball. Yeah. I think Big is kind of unfortunately saddled to everybody, right?
Yeah.
I think about Big Sexy with Bartolo Colon. Not a lot of great nicknames in baseball right now.
Yeah.
Then in the National League, am a little bit surprised at this one. I thought Cade Horton was going to win in the National League. I believe had the second best second half ERA for a Cubs pitcher in the last 20 years. The only one that was better was Jake Arrieta the year he went full on God mode and pitched to a .75 ERA in the second half of the season. But a little bit surprised at this one. Not because I thought Drake Baldwin didn't, like, Drake Baldwin had an excellent season. Hit 270 plus, is just the 10th catcher all time to win the Rookie of the Year award and had a really good year. I think, what did he hit? 19 home runs, drove in 80, hit 274, had a slug of 467. I am a little surprised that it wasn't Cade Horton, because I think that he, especially considering how badly the Cubs needed pitching down the stretch, he really kept them afloat when Imanaga was hurt, when Justin Steele went down, when Tyone started to falter a little bit. I thought Cade Horton had a heck of a season. I am a little bit surprised that he did not win. What were your thoughts on the National League voting?
Yeah, I feel like...
And by the way, 21 votes of the 30 for Baldwin for first place.
That does feel high. I mean, if playoffs play a role, which not supposed to, but they do because the voting comes later. I mean, he didn't pitch in the postseason, so I guess he didn't get... But I mean...
But Drake Baldwin didn't play in the postseason. His team didn't even make it.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's 50-50 between
2.67 ERA, 11-4, just above a 1 WHIP, 97 strikeouts. Not a high strikeout pitcher, 97 strikeouts and 118 innings pitched. I mean, I don't want to discredit Drake Baldwin. He had a heck of a season, and to do it offensively behind the plate, we talked about it. There's not many good offensive catchers in baseball. He's proving he could be the next good one. I don't know, man. I think it being 21-9 in first place votes is surprising to me.
Yeah, I guess maybe the only argument is that I think Baldwin was up at the beginning of the season and just had a longer stretch. I think Horton came in a little bit later.
So if Horton pitched another 5 games at the way that he did, like if he would have gotten to 28 starts as opposed to 23 to make a difference?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a fair point. I get your point. I don't know. I thought this one... Again, I don't really necessarily have an issue with Baldwin winning, but I thought this one would be a little bit closer than what it was. Mm-hmm. No surprise, Kurtz went unanimous.
Yeah.
And then the other one was the Manager of the Year award. And for the first time ever, back-to-back Manager of the Year award winners in both leagues. So Stephen Vogt wins it for the second straight time in the American League. Pat Murphy wins it for the second straight time in the National League. We talked about Pat Murphy a little bit, Ethan, last week. No surprise there. The Brewers each and every year feel like they're the team that's like, I think it's the year the Brewers regress, right? They traded away this guy. They gave up this guy. They didn't sign anybody in free agency. And all they do is just continue to win, right? They had 2 guys finish in the top 5 in Rookie of the Year voting in Durbin and Collins. Freddie Peralta just continues to be like the most unheralded stud pitcher in baseball. Their bullpen was great. I know it suffered a slew of injuries down the stretch, but their bullpen was awesome. They get productivity from dudes that you never expect, like, Quinn Priester had a really good year this year, and he fell apart. What's that?
In his previous stops, he fell apart.
Yeah,
so.
You know what I mean? Like they're just a team that gets more from less, at least in terms of what we expect. So I had no problem with Pat Murphy winning it. I would have picked Pat Murphy as well. A little surprised John Snyder didn't win. I know it's a good roster. And we talked about Manager of the Year being graded on a bell curve in terms of at some point your roster being good just means you're good. Like Rob Thompson finished 3rd, and I'm not surprised that he finished 3rd because the Phillies were expected to be a 90-plus win team. They were a 90-plus win team, and they did what they were supposed to do in the regular season. But I am surprised John Snyder didn't win because of the fact that the Blue Jays, while they have a lot of talent, Vladdy and Bichette, and they compiled a good pitching staff, and you got, if you knew who Trey Savage was before the season, you either are in a dynasty fantasy league or you love prospects. Like Ethan, you're the biggest dynasty fantasy nerd I've ever seen in my life, and I mean that in the most complimentary way possible. You probably knew who Trey Savage was. I couldn't have told you who the guy was. But to go from single A to the major leagues and pitching in the World Series, that's an incredible leap. But they won, they win 77 games last year, I think it was, or 75 games last year.
They might have been last. Or second to last.
So I think they were.
Or maybe at a certain stretch.
Yeah, they were. They won 74 games last year. They finished 5th in the AL East, which is always one of the more competitive divisions in baseball. They went from 74 wins and finishing in last in the American League East. And I remember sitting here in March and being like, dude, if they don't play well by June, they're going to start trading guys. Mm-hmm. Like that core is going to break up and it's going to be rebuild time for a team that never did anything. And all they did was win 94 games and go to the World Series. I am surprised John Snyder didn't win it. I get why Vogt won it, because Cleveland's payroll is like, $12. And they were pretty much dead in the water until August. And then Detroit started to falter. They played really well down the stretch. And I totally understand it. They may end up making the postseason. They win 88 games, I think it was, win the division. I think at one point was it 12 or 13 in a row? I don't have a problem. Again, we're splitting hairs here. I don't have a problem with it, but I am a little surprised that John Snyder didn't win.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think in the grand scope of having a larger payroll, I can understand that being an account of things. A funny story about Stephen Vogt. My parents met him in Iceland before he took the job.
Really?
I think he had just finished.
Just like randomly ran into him?
Yeah, like on like a bus or something. Like they met him and his family.
Was he just like hanging out on vacation?
Yeah, just enjoying
That's
his
pretty
time
cool.
off.
Did they recognize him?
No. I think they just struck up a random conversation.
Oh, and found out like, hey, you're a former major leaguer and about to be a manager?
And they asked me who he was, and
that's
I knew
wild.
who he was, and I shared with them yesterday that he won back-to-back Manager of the Year awards.
So Pat Murphy took 27 of the 30 votes, which, not surprised, right? Terry Francona got 2. Rob Thompson got a vote for first place. I'd like to know who the writer was that voted for Rob Thompson.
Was it you who voted for him?
First of all, I don't have a vote. And second of all, I've made my opinions very well known. I would have voted for Pat Murphy. So like before the awards started, I said, here's who I would vote for. Pat Murphy, John Snyder, Nick Kurtz, Cade Horton. And then in terms of Cy Young, Paul Skeens, Tarek Skubal, MVP, Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge. We'll find out about the other ones in the coming days. I would have voted for Pat Murphy. He got 1 first-place vote, 7 second-place votes, 6 third-place votes. He finished third. Terry Francona had 49 points, Thompson 32. Craig Counsell got 24 votes. I don't like Craig Counsell. I don't think he's a good manager. I think let me rephrase that. I think he's overrated. I think Pat Murphy taking over in Milwaukee proved to you that he was overrated. Clayton McCullough getting 22 votes, I think, is a good step for him. That Marlins team won 14 more games this year than they did last year. They've put together a pretty good core. Now, they've got to spend a little bit of money, but it's a nice little young core. He got 22 votes. Terry Lavello got a vote, and Mike Schilt got a vote. Third place votes, but like, what are you voting for Terry Lavello for? 2 years ago, yeah, he probably should have won Manager of the Year. What are you voting for him this year for? The Diamondbacks had a slew of injuries and weren't very good. And then in the American League, I'm going to try to find the American League breakdown really quickly. Obviously, Stephen Vogt won. John Schneider finished second. Dan Wilson finished third. Trying to see who else got some votes, but I can't find the graphic for the American League. Here you go. Let me pull this up real quick. I got directed to Facebook. Yep, can't even see the picture. We'll find out later. It's not that big a deal. Okay, here we go. Alex Cora finished 4th. AJ Hinch finished 5th. Joe Espada finished 6th. Houston missed the playoffs. AJ Hinch's team had one of the greater collapses this season, and Alex Cora's team was good. And I know they weathered the storm because of the whole Rafi Devers stuff. There's a reason those guys finished distant 4th, 5th, and 6th. But I am surprised. The one big one for me I'm surprised is John Schneider. All right, let's pause. We got one more break on the other side. We're going to get into our Remember Me segment of the day. We'll wrap things up with some fun before we get out of here on this Wednesday afternoon. It's the PHLY Phillies Podcast. We broadcast live from the Xfinity Lounge. We'll be right back after this. All right, listen. We know it's getting a little bit cooler. It's starting to not be hot anymore. In fact, it's just flat out cold at this point. But that doesn't mean that your work stops. That doesn't mean that you're not hitting the gym or out on the trail running or working in a blue collar job or just running around with the kids. And when you do that, right, you end up sweating. You end up getting a little smelly. And sometimes regular deodorant just isn't enough for you. That's why you got to get in with Mando, because it's clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. And you can get it in either the solid deodorant stick, which is formulated and powered to stop odor before it starts, or the spray deodorant, which is ideal for some of the more hard-to-reach places. All of their products are baking soda-free and paraben-free as well, and you can choose from some awesome scents like bourbon leather or clover wood, pro sport, whatever it might be. You know that it is going to control odor better than just a shower with soap alone. 12 hours after a shower, the average man, their odor level's about 5 out of 10. With Mando, it's a 0, because you know that blocking power is there. And if you're thinking about it, you want to dip your toe in the Mando waters, the starter pack is perfect for you. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, and 2 free products of your choice, like a mini body wash or deodorant wipes, and it comes with free shipping. So head on over to shopmando.com, that's shopmando.com, and get 20% off site-wide with the exclusive code PHLY. Please support the show. Tell them that we here at PHLY sent you. And while we're here, let me tell you about our friends over at Parx Casino, because whether your favorite team wins or not, there is always another way to win with Parx Casino. You can check out some of their incredible exclusive games like Fireblaze Sky Queen. It's part of the reason as to why it's the only app that I would ever use to play all of my favorite casino games right in the palm of my hand. I can play blackjack, roulette, slots, craps, poker, baccarat. And again, you can play those hot online slots that are based on your favorite streaming shows like The Walking Dead, Squid Game, Breaking Bad, and all of those favorite classic casino games wherever you are. And if you're a new user, you can get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. So head on over to bedparks.com, download the app today, and enjoy all of the action and excitement from the casino right at your fingertips. You must be 21 and in PA, New Jersey, Maryland, or Michigan for BetParx. You love to play, you play to win, you bet BetParx. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Phillies Podcast. Let's get into our Remember Me trivia segment of the day. We do this each and every Wednesday. It is 3 guys that come to my head, and I have kind of changed it just a little bit. It's 3 guys that all share a common theme. And so, Ethan, I got you. I received your feedback.
Thank you.
I heard you. I listened to you. I value you. And so today, we did start from 2014 on. Today's common theme, because of the awards being announced yesterday, all of these players have received Rookie of the Year votes. None of them won the Rookie of the Year, but all of them have received Rookie of the Year votes. And it started at least from 2014 on, so it gives you a little bit of a sample size. Let's get to our first Remember Me player of the day. This player finished 5th in the National League in Rookie of the Year voting in 2015. 2017 was probably his best season with the Marlins. He had a 902 OPS and 25 home runs. And, well, that should say clue number 3. That's my bad on making that graphic. But anyway, he was a first baseman who played 29 games in his career with the Phillies.
Okay. I'm really honing on clue number 2. That's the one. I feel like I'd have the...
Played for other teams, but his best years came in Miami.
Okay. Did you say position? Or is that
Yeah, he was primarily a first baseman.
Primarily a first baseman. Oh.
It is not Tommy Joseph, Futz.
I don't think...
I think Miami is the clue you should key on.
Yeah, my first thought was, what was his name? Jesus Aguilar, but he didn't play for the Phillies.
He is a guy that for like 5 straight years I asked for the Phillies to go get as a bench power bat.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh yeah, maybe the Phillies are interested. And it's like, no, not now. Now he can't hit now.
Yeah, he had one good year. But I thought I remember him going kind of crazy in Milwaukee. I think that, or in Miami.
Yeah, Jesus Aguilar I think he had a pretty solid year. Maybe had a couple of solid years in Miami, but he had...
yeah, I thought I remember one good year.
He had 35 in Milwaukee the one year.
Yeah.
22 in Miami. Yeah, he was like a dude that for the longest time, I'm like, go get him as a bench bat.
Mm-hmm.
But it is not Jesus
Yeah.
It's not Rico Brogna, no.
29 games with the Phillies. What year was he with the Phillies? Or is that too much?
He was traded to the Phillies in, I want to say 2019.
Oh, 2019 midseason.
That's my guess, is about
Acquisition.
2019. 2018.
2018. 2018 midseason acquisition. Or did he start with the team and got cut very early on?
No, he was traded. He was acquired at the deadline. Somebody got it right in the chat.
Gene Segura? No.
Not Gene Segura.
That was the first name I saw. I was going to say no way. Oh, are you referring to Pat Ryan's comment?
Nope.
Or someone actually said the name?
Somebody said the name. Yeah. Not Travis Lee. Way too far.
I don't know who this is. Vinny V?
No, I think Futz is saying, give me Vinny Velasquez one day so he can get it.
Oh. Someone in chat got it right? You said no, Tommy Joseph. I don't know who this is. Bohr?
That's the right answer. Broad Street Bullies 93 is right. It's Justin Bohr.
Oh.
Yeah,
no,
that's the right answer. Yeah, Justin Bohr was acquired in that 2018 year. They went out and got a whole bunch of dudes to like try to fit pieces together. It didn't work. They missed the playoffs. And then they just had all these veterans on half-a-year deals, and none of them came back. So, yeah, Justin Bohr is the right one. All right, let's get to number 2. Well done, Broad Street Bullies. This player finished third in the American League in Rookie of the Year voting in 2015, had 4 seasons of 25 or more home runs, and was one of the 3 Twins All-Star representatives in 2017. I would say this player is best known for being a Minnesota Twin.
Um, 2015. Primary position was
third base, first base. I think came up as a third baseman and moved to first. I would say, let me double check on that because I don't want to be wrong. Yeah, came up as a third baseman. Started to kind of move to first as he got older.
My very early thought was Josh Donaldson.
It is not Max Kepler, and no, it is not Josh Donaldson.
I wasn't very confident. Pretty decent player too.
This guy was weird because I think a lot of us thought this guy was on pace to be a really good power bat, and then all of a sudden he hit 199, 204, 223, and then was pretty much out of the league.
Oof. Broad Street Bullies might go 2 for 2. Carlos Santana?
It is not Carlos Santana. By the way, there will be no Carlos Santana disrespect on this podcast. I love Carlos Santana. But yes, it is not Carlos Santana.
Does he have a podcast?
I looked it up. I don't think so. Oh, no, it's not Trevor Plouffe. Trevor Plouffe is, I think he's with John Boy with Talking Baseball, but it is not Trevor Plouffe. More power than Plouffe. Plouffe also played for the Phillies for like a handful of weeks. This guy struck out at least 115 times every year for 6 straight seasons. All right, you got a guess?
No.
Remember Miguel Sano? 35 home runs in 2019. Followed it up with a 2020 where he didn't really do much. Went back to 30 home runs in 2021, and then hit 1, went unsigned, hit 2, and was out of baseball.
That's quite a career.
So, yeah, unbelievable drop off the face of the planet. But this was Miguel Sano from the Minnesota Twins. All right, let's get to number 3 real quick. This player finished 4th in American League Rookie of the Year voting in 2017, won a Gold Glove, and led the American League in average in 2021, was also a 33-year-old rookie.
All right, post-COVID, really good hitter. What team was he on in 2021?
Houston. I believe it was Houston.
Whoa, okay.
This dude was really quite a good hitter for most of his career. It was just a shorter career because of the fact that he was so much older when he came to Major League Baseball.
My first thought was Yuli Gurriel.
How the hell did you get this one?
What do you mean?
You didn't get Justin Bohr, but you got Yuli Gurriel. Are you kidding me? Yes, this is Yuli Gurriel.
At least I got one.
33-year-old rookie from Cuba.
Yeah, I kind of
defected from Cuba late.
When I first saw this one and I saw a 33-year-old rookie, I immediately thought of
Chris Coast.
No, he played in Toronto. Edwin
Encarnacion.
Yeah, I thought he was a late bloomer, but maybe.
He was, but he had been in the league for a while. I think he bounced around. He didn't come into his own until he was in his 30s.
Yeah.
But that's unbelievable work by you, because I thought this was the hardest one by far.
I didn't.
That was incredible.
At least I got
that
one.
was Yuli Gurriel.
No, I remember him. He got in some poor behavior in the World Series or in the playoffs.
So was he, if I'm remembering correctly, was he the guy on MLB The Show that had like a 2 speed?
I don't know.
I feel like he was, but anyway, that was unbelievable pull by you. Well done.
Thank
All right,
you.
that's going to wrap up today's show. Incredibly well done by you, Ethan. Great work by everybody in the chat as well. I guess between you and the chat, we do play as a team, right? Between you and the chat, you got 2 out of 3. Well done. But incredible showing by you guys. Let's go 3 for 3 next week. Thanks so much for hanging out with us here on the PHLY Phillies podcast. Chris Coast is the answer. Futz was the guy who debuted in his 30s. Good book, 33-year-old rookie. You should read it. Big thanks to everybody hanging out in the chat today. We really appreciate you being a part of today's show. Big thank you to Ethan Hartley for producing and co-hosting. We'll be back on Friday afternoon for our last show of the week. And then we will take you into the weekend. But coming up next, 1:30, Philadelphia has you covered. We're going to get into a whole bunch of different stuff, including one of the greatest players at his sport ever coming to Philadelphia tonight. PHLY Eagles at 2, Sixers at 3. You got the cheap seats at 7, and the Flyers will have a pre- and post-game show tonight against the Edmonton Oilers. Thanks so much for being a part of today's show. We'll talk to you again on Friday at noon right here on the PHLY Phillies podcast. See you then.
We all silly like the mayor.